the old-fashioned and preach from the Bible board this morning. Is that okay, Parker? Or is it easier to preach from here?
Whatever works for you.
June is graduation season. As we know, I've had one graduation and been blessed by that. My older daughter, Jordan, graduated from the University of Virginia in 2012, and it was the 25th anniversary of my own graduation from UVA. Katie Couric delivered the keynote address at final exercises. And Katie, a fellow UVA alum, spoke deeply from her heart about the 3 R's. To quote her, "These days, the world seems like a pretty scary and at times overwhelming place. So given all these challenges, WWTJD, what would Thomas Jefferson do? He'd persevere and he would prevail. And you will do the same. By now, thanks to many years of education, you've mastered the 3 R's, as in reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is actually just 1 R, not 3. But there are 3 other R's that are essential for success, not just in your career, but in your life. Risk, rejection, and resilience. And as I read the gospel passage from today's lectionary, I thought about Katie's speech to those graduates because this passage reminded me of a graduation speech. As we enter Matthew chapter 10, the disciples have truly been Jesus' students. They have followed him, listened to him, and watched him perform miracles, especially healings. Now these 12 men have reached a graduation time of sorts. They are becoming apostles. Jesus is about to send them out as representatives, emissaries, ambassadors. Jesus is going to send them out into the harvest field to do his Father's work. In some ways, chapter 10 is a keynote graduation address to them. Theologians call it the missionary discourse. The passage presented in today's reading has 2 major sections. The responses that the disciples might encounter as they go out, and the principle of discipleship. Like all graduation speeches, Jesus ultimately wants to put what the students have learned into some context and then encourage them to face the future boldly. Jesus describes a future to his disciples that sounds like it is in chaos. The Common English Bible translates verses 34 through 36 in this way. Don't think that I've come to bring peace to the earth. I haven't come to bring peace but a sword. I've come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. People's enemies are members of their own households. Now, Jesus is not talking about breaking up families. These are not social structures. Jesus is not talking about family social structures when he's talking in this passage. He's talking about, let me back this up. He's not talking about family structures like me and Evan or you inside your households. He's talking about the social structures of his time, the social structures of our times. He's talking about social structures rooted in power. Jesus was talking about pulling down power-dominated social structures for the sake of bringing the kingdom down on earth. Thy kingdom come. thy will be done. That's what Jesus is talking about. Just like it did in Jesus' day, the gospel does shake things up. The gospel changes things. The gospel rearranges priorities. The gospel reorients goals. It's energizing. And as I was considering this sermon, I was thinking about this spring at St. Gabriel's. We are alive with the energy of change. And it's not change simply for the sake of change. We are engaged in the business of transforming the world through acts of love. Now, does that sound kind of grandiose? It's not. Love is never grandiose because God is love. Love is the most radical way to make change in the world. Reaching out to feed hungry children is love. Expanding the circle of this worshiping community is love. Ministering to those in prison is love. Touching the lives of the homeless and those who are precariously housed is love. Standing up with every person, regardless of who they choose to love, is love. Caring for God's creation is love. Lifting up the needs of anyone who asks us to pray for them is love. Welcoming the newcomer and the stranger into our midst is love. Taking the risk to move so that we are better able to serve is love. At St. Gabriel's, we are doing all of those things. And so, we are changing the world through love. Katie Couric talked about risk, rejection, and resilience. Love is extreme resilience. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 8 says, love never fails. Love never fails because God is love, and God never fails. St. Gabriel's has kept pushing forward because of your love for each other, for all of God's people, and for God, our Creator. All graduation speeches need a good closing. And as I prayed about discipleship and the discipleship that St. Gabriel's has shown, and your willingness to change, I want to share the Franciscan blessing, because it is a prayer for a people who have a heart to live out the radical, world-changing love of the gospel. People like you. A Franciscan blessing. May God bless you with discomfort. Discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger. Anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears. Tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and turn their pain into joy. May God bless you with foolishness. Enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done. Amen.